Welcome back, you beautiful humans. Episode 14 on the story of a t-shirt quilt. We're back at Camp Menominee in the North Woods of Wisconsin, right here. There's our few topics or places or groups that are represented by more than one shirt. Camp Menominee certainly is one of them. This logo I actually developed. This was a logo that I came up with by accident, and it really represents Menominee as the name, obviously, but also it's an athletically oriented boys camp, residential camp. This shirt represents the fantasy camp. We started the first ever residential fantasy camp of its kind from a privately owned residential sports camp or private camp ever. We had at Camp Menominee, we had the first video ever. We had the first website ever. We had the first, now all the camps have alumni camps. It's important to innovate and get around visionaries, people that have ideas. They won't always succeed, but this one has. We're approaching our 40th anniversary of the fantasy camp. We're approaching the 100th anniversary of Camp Menominee. I was the third owner, and now Menominee's on its its fifth owner. Nate Wasserman and Edna Wasserman founded the camp. And then their son Alan and his wife Elaine ran it. That's who was the director of my experience. Then Dawn and I bought it from Alan and Elaine. And then Steve and then eventually Barry Konevsky, they ran it and bought it from us. And then Jason Feldgraber now runs Menominee and still fantasy camp. A friend of ours named Courtney Mann, who was the camper of the year, the Nate Wasserman Award winner, that we started that. Somebody asked him at a North Shore Chicago bar, there was a lot of young adults at the time, what camp they went to. And Courtney's response was, we still go to camp. Even they were like, what? That was because of fantasy camp. It was like the 60th anniversary of camp. And I thought, instead of doing something in the city, let's have it at camp. And 65 guys showed up. And as I said, 40 years later almost, it's still going on. Such a great tradition. And as I talked about when I introduced the idea of Camp Menominee, and that I started there when I was 9 years old, I told you guys that I was molested at camp by my cabin counselor, my first year at camp. It was a really awful and dramatic turning point in my life. And then when we owned the camp, this guy, John, that molested me, came to visit with his family. And I had a choice to make. And the only thing I regret is not bringing it up to him. I just treated him, rolled out the red carpet like any alumni, I would. But John had two daughters, young daughters, a wife. And I found out that his profession, perhaps not surprisingly, was an Episcopal priest. He was a priest. Yeah, I know. And I should have said something, but I shouldn't have hated him. I don't hate. Hate doesn't hurt the person that hurt you. Bitterness doesn't hurt you. Either you become bitter or you become better from experiences like that. Because of my experiences at camp and because of the spiritual track that we talked about when we talked about Sex in the Pews and the impact of the true gospel, not the Christianity gospel, the true good news. I was able not only to forgive him, but forgive myself, forgive my parents for not doing anything about it, forgive everything and everybody. That's the healthy way. It doesn't mean you don't hold people accountable. But at camp, I had mostly fun. Camp's like life. It's a lot of fun, but a lot of tragedy can happen. No risk, no reward. There's a lot of risk at camp. I had a colleague who was my business teacher in high school. He owned a camp too. And now I'm a young camp director, and he actually had a camper die at his camp. And the next winter, all of us camp directors were gathered at our annual meeting. And I said to him, and it was the elephant in the room. And I said, Bill, is it worth it? And everybody knew what I meant. And he said, yes, Glenn, it's worth it. It is. Life is worth doing effectively. Let me help you if you want. Just give me a buzz, 813-363-9545. Go to my website, klein.coach. Learn about how I was healed from mental illness there. And I'll talk to you personally about it. The first session is on me. Hope you are enjoying the journey here and having fun with the story of a quilt.